G'day, you're listening to the Virtual Staff Room and this is episode 9, Changing Focus. Many schools these days are thinking about the role that technology plays in delivering an effective learning environment to their students, and they're trying to figure out the best ways to integrate and to implement various technology into those classrooms. Our guests in this episode are Bruce Fuda and Mark Harriott, two teachers that are thinking a lot about these sorts of issues. Bruce and Mark teach at Stromlo High School, a government-run school located just outside Canberra in the Australian Capital Territory. Now, for those that may not be aware, from this year, the ACT school system no longer has a traditional syllabus structure like New South Wales or Victoria. Instead, schools in the ACT are responsible for developing their own curriculum based on a framework derived from the national curriculum statements. And this approach provides schools with the flexibility to custom design their learning programs to best meet the needs of their students. And it also encourages schools to keep the curriculum dynamic and current without the typical content restrictions of a more traditional syllabus. Now, as well as redeveloping its curriculum, Stromlo High is also dealing with a couple of other significant changes at the moment. One is that the school has recently restructured itself to be a year 6 to 10 school rather than 7 to 10, and so it's dealing with the implications of that change. And because the school also makes a fairly good use of technology in their learning activities, it's also been identified as an IT-focused school. So they're changing the focus of what they do to include more IT in the way they use information and communication technologies for learning and teaching, and they want to make that just a normal part of the way the school works. So this episode covers a lot of ground. It starts with some background about essential learning achievements, thoughts on teacher professional development, use of cross-platform computing tools, access to technology, and technology integration across the school. Something for everyone, really. So from Stromlo High School, here are Bruce Fuda and Mark Harriott. Well, I'm talking to Bruce Fuda and Mark Harriott, who are both teachers at in ACT in Australia. And Bruce contacted me a while back talking about the idea that his school was making some fairly drastic changes to the way they were about to do business. So I thought it'd make an interesting discussion. So Bruce, I might get you to just start us off, mate, and just tell us a little bit about the background of the situation and where it's all headed.
Yep, no worries. Well, I've only been teaching for a little while. I'm in my third year out now at the same school. My first placement was at Stromlo High School, and as of this year, 2007, there are quite a few changes happening in the ACT. They've introduced a new curriculum framework that will be implemented in schools from 2008, and this year is going to be a bit of a trial for that. And in addition to that, there have been quite a lot of changes due to budgetary decisions in the government. So we're seeing, for example, our school, which was before this year, a year 7 to 10 high school, is introducing year 6. And we're seeing changes right across the territory, schools merging, different models, some preschool to year 3 models in some cases and things like that. So it's a really interesting time. And part of the curriculum framework has been the introduction of what are called essential learning achievements. And a lot of those have been designed so that the role of IT in the classroom will be significantly greater.
Cool. Now, when you sent me the email about this originally, I was reading through it, and there was things in there that I wasn't aware of, and I guess there'll be other people who weren't, where you said the schooling system in the ACT doesn't actually have a syllabus like New South Wales or Victoria, and the schools are responsible for delivering their own curriculum on a framework. Just tell me about that.
All right. Well, basically, rather than setting in concrete what needs to be taught in each of the subjects and what subjects are on offer, the role of the government before this new document was they developed a set of statements, their basic framework, which were derived from the National Curriculum Statements of Profiles, which were developed back with the Adelaide Declaration. Since then, though, they've sat down and they've developed this framework. It's still in draft. It's called Every Chance to Learn. And the idea is to identify what it is students need to know and what they need to what they need to learn about how they learn, as well as the actual content. So they've broken it down into what are called markers of progress for each stage of the child's learning.
Right.
Starting with early childhood and late childhood, which are basically your infant and primary stages of primary school, and then early and late adolescence, which covers your high school years. So based on that, they've provided what sort of benchmarks students should be trying to, or should be achieving at each of those rough stages. And then the schools are free to develop their curriculum as long as they meet those basic achievements any way that they like.
That sounds so much more sensible to me than what we normally do.
Well, I guess the idea is to allow schools to be a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more reactionary to what it is that students need to get out of their education. So it's got big pluses. Of course, it does increase the workload on staff.
Yep.
So obviously there are downsides, but I think it probably stands to. It puts ACT in a really good situation now to do things like integrate IT effectively without having to worry too much about any restrictions that a traditional syllabus might place on that.
Yeah, right. Well, sitting in the other room, banished to the other room for for his microphone, is Mark Harriott. Mark, g'day.
How are you?
Mate, tell us where you fit into this whole deal.
Basically, I'm the executive teacher of IT and technology at Stromlo High School and work alongside Bruce.
So that's like an ICT coordinator type role?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yep.
And so, yeah, as Bruce said, with the budgetary changes and stuff, we've actually been selected to become an IT-focused school. So our biggest change, as well as getting Year 6, is to become an IT-focused school, and I suppose one of the main purposes of this podcast is to try and find out some answers and have a bit of a discussion about what we should be doing, where do we go from here, and
Right. Well, now
as well as the new curriculum.
It's an interesting phrase, an IT-focused school, because I guess a lot of schools are trying to change their focus on IT and generally to increase it. How do you interpret that IT-focused school?
It's a funny one because I look at a lot of the stuff that we're already doing at the school. And there's some great things going on, like in science, what they're doing with the data loggers, what people are doing with the My Classes program, all those sorts of things. So we're doing a lot of stuff already. But I think the significance of becoming an IT-focused school is trying to have IT available in every classroom and trying to enhance student learning through that.
Right. Okay.
So it's more not just being in some certain areas around the school, but actually having it available in every area for teachers to pick up and use. Yeah,
right. Just feel free to chip in any time you like, Bruce. But I was just going to ask a question, like, what are your strategies that you're looking at then to create that IT focus? I guess there's a number of issues that sort of would jump out at me, and one of them would be obviously access. Kids getting access to technology. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I suppose starting at grassroots level and looking at what equipment we need. Mm-hmm. The ACT department at the moment is looking at trying to get gigabit uplinks into all the schools in the ACT.
Right.
So I suppose from that thing we have a good foundation. We're trying to put more interactive whiteboards into classes.
Yep.
Some of the teachers have been using them for maths and a few other classes, but the math stuff in particular and teaching from the textbook on the interactive whiteboard has just been a great success and really engaged a lot of the students. So we're getting more of the interactive whiteboards.
Yep.
We're trying to set up more pods of computers around the schools, like in normal classrooms. So, once again, there is that greater access. So we're trying to, and then also buy more peripherals as well. So we're trying to get all that side done. And then I suppose the hardest thing is trying to train staff. The professional development is just such a hard thing, especially in the ACT with the whole mobility thing that I think Bruce has mentioned before, that we're basically at a school for 4 years to start with and then 6 and whatever. So the staff turnover can be huge, and at the start of last year we had 23 new staff at the school out of about 60. So when you have those sort of significant changes, it's very hard to sort of get stuff really going.
Yeah, that's a real challenge, I think. So, okay, just back up one step. Let me just clarify. So the school you guys are at the moment is changing its focus, or is this actually a new school that's being built?
It's just changing its focus.
Okay, so the school exists right now?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
right. Okay, and it's changing its focus. So, you've got a big job ahead of you.
It's just there's a lot of stuff happening at the same time. So becoming an IT-focused school is one, becoming a Year 6 school at the same time,
right,
as well as writing the new curriculum. It's a lot of stuff happening at the same time.
So, Bruce, you said 6 to 10, but is that because it's still in process, or is it only going to be 6 to 10, or
No,
is it on its way to 12?
No, in the ACT, they've got a separate college system for Year 11 and 12 students. Right. So most of the high schools are Year 7 to Year 10 only. The introduction of Year 6 is, I think it's the first. There are other schools that are K to 10. Yep. Some of them operate on a single campus, most of them too. But Year 6 to 10, we're the first school to pick up this model.
I think you're really fortunate. I used to teach in a 7 to 10 school, and I actually think that the model of education that's built on that, it's not really middle school, but that 7 to 10 age group, when you take the seniors out of the equation, because I think it's a very different education by the time you get to 11 and 12, it changes focus, or at least it does in New South Wales.
Well, I know here in the ACT too, it tends to shift a lot more to almost a university-style learning environment.
It goes back to a very Socratic style where the teacher teaches and the students soak it up. There's content to get through and all that sort of thing. And I think you guys sound like you're in an interesting position, because being 6 to 10 or 7 to 10 as others are, you've got that sort of that almost like that middle school mentality where you're free to be a little bit more open about how you structure your content.
Yeah, I think though it does have the potential to be a little bit of a trap. I mean, I consider where we're at the moment. Our Year 7 and 8 curriculum is, everyone does a little bit of everything, pretty much.
Right.
Year 8 students get the opportunity to select an elective in each semester.
Yep.
But apart from that, they do subjects from right across all the subject areas. In Year 9 and 10, it's virtually entirely elective driven. So they do their maths, they do English, but they have 14 elective choices after that they can choose from over the 2 years.
Right.
The problem is we offer 84 different subjects in Year 9 and 10 across learning areas. So I guess to some degree there's a little bit of overload there, and it does give students the opportunity to select subjects from specific learning areas, which is going to make this implementation of these essential learning achievements extremely difficult in a traditional KLA-based setting. And that's probably one of the things we're going to need to consider when it comes to curriculum redevelopment over the next couple of years is, do we stick with this traditional KLA-based system? And if we do, is there a nice way to ensure that students are getting exposure to all of those different learning areas so that it's not, the learning shouldn't really be content-driven, but I think if kids are going to be able to see the relationship between different types of content and different subject areas, there needs to be a little bit of coverage. And at the moment, with so many electives on offer, it's extremely easy for students to avoid particular types of learning or particular content.
Yeah, I was talking to someone recently, and he was pointing out that we there's so much stuff going on in the world today in terms of the content you could put into a school system that we can only ever teach 5% of it. But we tend to argue forever about what that 5% should actually contain. So it's interesting. I'm really intrigued by this idea that you guys have like almost an open curriculum, in that it sounds like all you've got to do is meet those learning outcomes, or those what's the phrase for it? Is it learning
Central
outcomes?
Learning achievements.
Central learning achievements. But yet you can structure the content pretty much to suit the kids.
Yeah, I mean, there are, for example, in some of the essential learning achievements, they define essential content, but apart from those that are specifically geared towards subjects like maths or English, a lot of the content can be is quite flexible as to how you go ahead and teach it.
Right.
So, although there is a little bit of of a directive there as far as content goes. It is still quite broad, because there's no or particular content that you need to use to teach that achievement. Yeah, it's a little bit of a tongue twister, but yeah, you sort of get what I mean, I think.
Yeah. So how are you going to infuse IT into most of this stuff?
Well, I suppose from the curriculum perspective, they've written in quite a few essential learning achievements that are designed specifically to cover all of the subject areas. So, for example, some of the essential learning achievements target things like using different strategies to think and learn, understanding and applying the inquiry process, and there's even one specifically for the use of information and communication technologies effectively.
Right.
So they've sort of, by targeting those ELAs as sort of cross-curriculum ELAs, the idea is to take the ideas that have been set out inside that and transfer them into all the subject areas. So the use of ICTs effectively obviously includes not just being able to use them in a traditional IT context, but also being able to say in your English class, using, and something that we've already done in the last year, using something like Comic Life on the Macs to recreate a comic that grabs the main sort of ideas and things presented in a Shakespeare passage.
Yeah. Look, I think Comic Life has got so much potential in the classroom. Are you guys a Mac school, are you?
Dual platform.
Dual platform, okay.
Basically, we, with Bruce coming on board and that, we really saw a need to get Macs up and going in the school, and the potential of a lot of the software they had for the Macs with iMovie, Comic Life, all those sorts of things in the iLife suite and that. We just thought, wow, to get Macs in the school would be fantastic. So we sort of went out on a limb and went and bought a whole Mac lab made up of Mac Minis.
Really?
And it's been quite hard to try and get. There's been problems with it talking to our normal server and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's been hard because the department hasn't really supported the Mac environment before.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been as easy as the PC network where we can just ring someone and say, hey, can you come out and fix this on the server or whatever. It's us having to sort of put our hand into our own pocket and get a Mac engineer out or something like that. Or Bruce has spent quite a bit of time trying to fix up a few of the glitches with the Mac network.
Yeah, it's interesting that you've taken that step because I'm kind of a recent switcher. I was in a Windows world for a long time and just switched to a Mac earlier last year. And I am amazed at how much more productive I can be, especially with constructivist type stuff. Now, I don't want to turn this into a Mac versus PC thing, but I am actually amazed at how much more it seems obvious to be creative on the Mac. And I'm teaching a school at the moment, which is a Windows school here in Canada, but they do have a small pod of Macs. And whenever I put the kids on the Macs, I just notice that they just start doing stuff that they don't kind of do on the Windows machines. It's an interesting phenomenon.
Well, one thing we found initially was that there was a little bit of reluctance from a lot of the students to pick it up. And I think a lot of it had to do with the difficulties we were having initially with getting them fully integrated with a Windows 2003 server.
Yep.
But I think this year we should have that pretty much nailed down. The only difficulty we're going to have now is ensuring that our network infrastructure is able to cope with the additional traffic, because at the moment, being an old building, our school isn't perfectly wide as far as infrastructure goes. So once they get that sorted, we should be able to do things like rely on the Mac lab being nice and stable, having good wireless access throughout the school, because that's another thing we're suffering from at the moment, is the shared bandwidth over the 100 megabit switches isn't great. But once we've got all the gigabit infrastructure in, I think we'll find that the productivity that we're getting out of the kids on all of our computing environments is going to increase. Yeah,
that's right. And I actually think it's pretty important to give kids exposure to different platforms, be it Mac, Windows, or even Linux, because at the end of the day, it's the underlying skill sets that I think are really important, and their ability to learn to cope with things that are maybe slightly different to what they're used to. I think there's enormous value in that.
So and I think that's why we've really tried to push it. And when we've taken parents on trips around the school and shown them what facilities we have there, and they've gone, oh, you've got Macs as well, and we've just gone, well, yeah, you know, we want to try and get students the opportunity to have a bit of a play on both networks, so it gives them a wider skill base.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's great to be able to jump from one platform to another, because it starts to I think you can claim to understand the concepts that you're working with in terms of technology, rather than specifics of which button to press to do what. So no, that's a good thing. You talked about wireless throughout the school, so you've got obviously a wireless footprint over the place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure do.
What are you looking to implement with that? Now, the kids don't have laptops. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. Is there no plans to go down that path?
Not at the moment.
Yep. So what sort of things are you going to use the wireless for?
We've got 3 laptop trolleys now. So there's one that's a Mac-based one, and then there's 2 PC-based laptop trolleys. And yes, it's sort of trying to get teachers to take those into classrooms and use those for a study lesson, research lesson, whatever. So that's sort of been the main thing with the wireless so far.
So just to clarify for anyone who's listening to this who might not be familiar with that, so you've got a trolley, and the trolley's full of laptops, which are obviously probably kept on power, so they're charged when you go to use them, and you wheel the trolley into a classroom, pull out the laptops, the kids open them up, log in, and they connect to the wireless network.
They do, and that brings up their profile from Active Directory. Yep,
beautiful, nice system.
So they don't have to log on as just a separate individual user. They log on as themselves.
Yep, sure. Okay, that's a nice system.
Yeah, as Bruce said, the only problem has been with the bandwidth, and once you load it up with two trolleys worth, which is 20 laptops, then it slows it significantly, and you can get a couple dropping off.
Yeah,
which we're hoping to fix this year. We have ordered new WAPs, so hopefully that will fix it.
As good as wireless can be, sometimes it's still a bit of a black art, I think.
Yeah, and as I was saying, so the students have that the power of doing that, but from a staff perspective as well, it means you can walk around with a PDA, and we've started doing staff announcements and that in the morning. So Bruce or myself will basically write out the notes from the morning announcements and then email them to all the teachers. So if any teacher has been out on playground duty and didn't hear the announcements, then they get emailed out, and it's just a great way of keeping up the communication.
Okay. Now, all of this facility is being provided by the ACT government?
Some of it has been won on grants and stuff, but a lot of it, our principal, Cecily Blake, has been very supportive of it all, and she always puts a good amount of the budget away for us to spend on these projects.
Yeah, that's good. It makes such a difference when the person at the top gets it.
Oh, definitely.
And they get behind it and support it. It's so difficult to push the technology barrow when the guy at the top or the woman at the top doesn't quite get it. So that's good to hear that. So, what are the other plans are you sort of looking at?
As I said, it's trying to get it into every classroom as much as possible. So as well as developing what we've got in the labs being used and the laptop trolleys and the other peripherals like cameras and all that sort of stuff, it's trying to extend it by having maybe more laptop trolleys, more interactive whiteboards, just so everything is a bit more accessible. Yeah. As well as cleaning up the network so it does run and teachers don't have those problems. You can try and push IT as much as possible, but if people go, I plan a lesson and then the network's not working or something stuffs up and whatever, then it's very hard to get them to try it again.
Yeah.
I suppose just to give you an idea, Chris, of some of the things that we're already doing. I mean, in some of the areas where you don't tend not to get too much IT use happening. So, for example, in the cooking classrooms, what we've seen this year is the use of things like digital cameras in an assignment where the kids put together a recipe book, which covered most of the recipes that they did during the term, include right from the basic steps of preparation, washing your hands, what food is going to be used, how it should be cut, how to use a knife, those sorts of things, right through to the end product, giving each group of students the opportunity to sit down and put that together and then combining it at the end into a class project.
Yeah.
For music, we've gone out and not only are the junior classes using GarageBand for simple composition stuff, but some of the live performance classes and recording classes are now using some more complex mixing and digital composition software, so they can plug their instruments straight in and do all of the mixing as they go in real time.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of those things being picked up in the other areas. The arts are really using quite a lot of the different technologies. We're seeing Flash being used. We're seeing them use GIMP, the GIMP for image manipulation, which is open source, and Photoshop Elements with drawing tablets to produce their digital art. There's a lot of that sort of stuff going on as well. So a lot of the stuff is there and working. I think what we're really trying to do is come up with a way to make sure that it's a little bit more reliable, that teachers are a bit more confident, because that's one of the things that we're finding is a lot of teachers aren't really enthusiastic to go ahead and say use the Mac Lab if they're unfamiliar with the technology, and that seems to be our biggest hurdle.
Right. Yeah. I think I think a lot of schools are in that same position with you, that they it comes down to staff training. It comes down to being able to get staff up to speed and comfortable and confident enough to walk into a classroom and be willing to do this stuff. I mean, it's that old thing about digital natives versus digital immigrants. The kids that are coming into your classrooms probably don't remember a world prior to the internet, and I guess it's a bit scary for some teachers that need to suddenly get to grips with it.
Yeah, and in some respects, some of the professional development opportunities they focus on how to use the technology and not how to teach with it, which is something that a lot of the teachers want to see. That they're reluctant to spend time learning how to use something if they don't see how it's relevant.
Yep.
So it needs to be a little bit more focused on how to teach specifically, even if it means that the actual professional development session is on the delivery of a certain project, as long as it makes it clear as to what the methodology is, so that people can then go ahead and use their own knowledge of content and anything else to come up with their own ways of doing things.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I used to do that a little bit, just to do teacher training, and we tried to focus very strongly on specifically how it relates to classroom use, because I think a lot of the technology training that's not specifically teacher focused can be very geeky for geeky's sake. Yeah.
Our biggest difficulty is going to be coming up with a way to do it so that we meet all of the new goals of the framework as well. But I think we've got the staff at our school are going to be spending a week in at the end of this month, actually, just before the school goes back, having a look at exactly what those ELAs are and how we might implement them. And we're going to start with a KLA-based implementation, just so it's not too disruptive. But I think what we'll probably see is that a lot of the staff who are already using IT will see the opportunities to actually take that a little bit further, and maybe over time we'll get there. But it definitely needs to be a whole school approach to it, which is where, as Mark mentioned earlier, mobility can be extremely difficult, because you can't guarantee that the staff you're going to get in to the school next year or the year after are going to be too keen to run with it. So we need to establish that culture in the staff. From an administrative perspective is a big factor too. Mark's already mentioned the way we use the PDAs to get announcements out to staff. But another thing that I do as one of the teachers trialling it is all my roles, a lot of my marking is done in class over students' shoulders on the PDA directly. And then I can use that information when it comes time to report to know that I've got accurate representations of what students have actually completed in class and what they're doing. And it makes things like marking assignments a little bit easier, because you can note down when students are working, when they're not, when they're writing on the backs of others. So it's going to be interesting, and having that wireless access makes it easy to communicate with other people across the school at any time. So once we sort of get those sorts of things working as well, I think we'll start to see a lot more staff get really keen about it. And something that I know came up in your last podcast, one on the world is flat.
Oh yeah.
One thing that the department is pushing towards down the track is giving students at schools who may not have access to certain classes, because it may be a skill shortage, it might be a lack of resources available. Through the system we're currently using, they can log on to, or can be added to a class at another school and have access to all the online content. So we may see a little bit down the track our school as one of the more widely resourced schools starting to offer those sorts of things to students who may not have access to those classes in their own schools.
Yeah, I think that's an enormously sensible idea. I was talking to some teachers once who teach a subject in New South Wales called software design and development, which is in some schools it's got a fairly small candidature. You might only get 1 or 2 or 3 kids choosing the subject. And, when you get a small candidature like that, often you just got to say, well, we can't run the subject. It's just not viable. And yet you've probably got 5 or 6 or 7 schools within an area who are all in the same position, who all have 3 or 4 kids who all want to do it. And it just doesn't make sense to me that you can't run a subject like that remotely and have, one school offer to run a course using a Moodle or some sort of online learning management system, and during the assigned time every week, the kids from those 5 or 6 schools all get in front of a computer and they learn together. And of course they don't even have to get online at the same time, really, because you can deliver it fairly asynchronously. But I don't think we're nearly smart enough that in the teaching profession, I don't think we're nearly smart enough yet in taking advantage of some of these remote education possibilities. So,
well, I know there's one subject that Mark's teaching right now, so he might be able to give you a little bit more of an idea as to exactly what it is. But there's a subject that we're running, which is a basic computer applications course, which awards students who complete it with a Certificate 1 in IT.
Yep.
So, and all of that's pretty much delivered online.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. And delivered from where? From within the school?
Sorry, yeah, it's delivered from within the school. And the tool we use is a program called My Classes. Yep. So I don't know if you know much about My Classes.
No, this is all part of Daniel Ingvarson and the wonderful, what's it called? My Internet project?
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
So basically using that as a tool, you create a class, you make all your students in your class members of that page, and then you can just upload anything you want on there. So assignments, tests, just workbooks for them to work through.
Yeah, so it's essentially a learning management system.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of the stuff for the Cert 1 on there.
Oh, that's good. Now,
very handy,
so what's to stop you guys from offering that to other kids who are outside the school, who may be in other schools, who want to do that course?
Nothing really.
Does it just come down to the resourcing of a teacher to be able to deal with those extra numbers?
I'd say so, and it's just, I suppose, we would have to clean it up and put a bit of extra stuff on there, like some demonstrations, so they could click on them and they can see watch a virtual demonstration.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, the whole course isn't just on that My Classes page. It's sort of more used as a support mechanism. So
some of it's hands-on and some of it's delivered electronically.
That's right, and you still need to sort of show the kids how to do certain stuff, like, click here, drag here, do this.
Yeah.
Whatever. So if we did film some of those things or whatever, we could make it a really, really good program.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I was having a conversation with a guy here in Canada just this afternoon after work, and we were talking about this idea that, again, to use the world as flat analogy, like if you were a teacher who was a really good teacher in a really specific area, what's to stop teachers now from basically opening their own schools? And how many students would you actually need to make that a viable option? You know what I mean? Like if you had, 10 kids paying $500 to do a course and you did that every semester or whatever, you could probably make a living out of...
Definitely.
Yeah.
It makes suspension a lot easier.
That's right. You turn off their access.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I think it's really the whole way information technology is kind of, flooding its way through the school system is really starting to change the whole way we do things and the way we can do things. It's a very interesting phenomenon.
It definitely is. And I think in a lot of respects, we're all still we're caught in the wave as well. And we still don't know how to do a lot of things properly. And the only way we're going to get there is through experimentation. And thankfully, we've got quite a lot of staff at our school who are keen to experiment with things. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But ultimately, you become better equipped to deliver more effective things from those experiences.
Have you guys found that it's just purely a gut impression? I got no numbers to back this up, but I get a really strong feeling that this year, last year, 2006, there was some real changes taking place, and it was from the ground up. I mean, I had kids turning up to classes with their own laptops because the school wouldn't provide stuff, so they'd turn up with it. I had kids who were blogging and podcasting and doing stuff like that outside of school, whether the school did it or not. And I just got this real sense that the landscape within the schools was changing, and if not from the top down, then it was going to happen from the bottom up. The kids were going to make it happen anyway. Are you getting a sense of that in Australia, or am I just something I'm noticing here in Canada?
I guess having a look at what some of the kids are doing outside of class, a lot of them are members of things like Bebo, MySpace, a lot of the blogging communities. But I think there's still a perception from them that at school, that's not what you do. No,
you play school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think we need to help break that down by introducing some more of these technologies into our classes.
Yeah.
One of the things I intend to do this year with some of my IT classes is have students deliver their things in different ways. So, for example, the networks and systems administration course that I'm doing, one of the things they look at is security. And part of the assignment that I'm going to set them will require them to actually write a diary of what would take place from the perspective of a virus, a system administrator, whatever else, when a computer is being infiltrated. So naturally, a blog is a great tool for doing that sort of thing, because they don't have to worry about formatting anymore. It's just a simple case of putting down what it is you want to do. If you want to refer to things online, you can just drop a hyperlink in. All those sorts of things make it easy.
That's what I've been finding, that by introducing blogs into classrooms, you're taking the focus off the technical stuff and you're putting it on the communications. It becomes more a conversation about learning and communicating rather than trying to submit something to keep the teacher off your back.
Yeah, and I'm planning to do something similar with podcasting in my Intro to Hardware class, where rather than necessarily delivering their project to the class as a presentation, what they can do instead is each student will be assigned, they will choose, not sure how I'm going to do that yet, a different hardware component to do a little bit of research on. And by presenting that as a podcast, they can develop as a class a series of podcasts that become a resource that we can use in future classes, that they can use as revision in later subjects, that covers all the necessary stuff that they need to know. So, by giving them those other tools that they can use to do these sorts of things, hopefully they'll start to see that, what we do at home can be brought into the classroom. I mean, some of the classes are using things like forums, discussion forums, already for students to post to regularly when they're exploring certain issues. I know that's definitely being done in our SOS department, and I think perhaps in English. So, it's definitely being used. But I think the more we get the students using them off their own bat, with their own initiative, the more we're going to actually see just what they're capable of, and it'll give teachers that little bit more confidence, I think, too, to use those technologies.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's all about creating an authentic school experience and having, I think, IT play the role it does in a school, that's the same role it does everywhere else in the world. I mean, if you step into any corporate entity or any business or any large organisation and look at how they're using IT in that, it's just a seamless thing that's there to support what the business does. It's not there for the sake of IT. And I think, it's good that you guys are trying to do the same thing there with your school, and that is to introduce IT into it in a way that is just there to support the learning that's going on. It's not about IT, it's about learning.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that one of the difficulties, I suppose, we're going to have with things like technologies like Skype, for example, that would allow us to have conversations with students from other countries, have kids doing the LOTE subjects, actually practice their Japanese or whatever with some Japanese students.
Hugely powerful.
That sort of thing would be great, but the first thing we need to do is convince not just the department, but also the people in the IT division that we need those sorts of things open so that we can do this, because obviously the network's fairly locked down, content's managed, MP3 downloads are blocked at the school. A lot of videos are difficult. Like you can't watch a video on YouTube at the school because YouTube is unfortunately blocked. So obviously there needs to be some way that we can convince these people that these, if they're managed properly, can be useful technologies for us to use. Then it comes down to maintaining that network. We've got one IT officer, and we're one of the luckiest schools in that we've actually got one. And as we get more and more technology in the school, then the workload on him is going to increase as well.
Yeah.
So we need to.
But you know what? The school's not there to support. The purpose of the school is not so the IT guy has an easy life. The purpose of the school is so that kids have effective learning processes taking place. And if that makes life a bit uncomfortable for a couple of the IT guys, we'll get over it,
Yeah. Oh,
the ITO that we have is fantastic, and he works non-stop. But unfortunately, the demand with looking after the staff network and the student network is just massive, and it's just. Yeah. People keep hassling, saying, "Why haven't you got around to look at this? Why haven't you done this?" when he's been working on, 5 other things and that. So that's the only unfortunate thing.
Oh, Mark, I know that feeling all too well, mate. Trust me, that's what I do at my school. So I've had that conversation.
Yes, and you get sick of looking at printers when people call you and say, "Come and look at my printer."
That's right. Yeah,
you got all these goals
about learning. About the way you're going to implement technology in learning and how everyone's going to, it's going to be a better world and everything else. And you get to work on Monday, and all you do is, my printer's broken.
That's right, and it's not turned on. Or there's no paper in it.
Yeah. Come and put paper.
So
in
you spend half your time looking after those issues.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys have got some interesting times ahead of you, to say the least, yeah. And I'd be interested to hear back from you, maybe 6 months down the track, and just hear how it's all going. I know the New South Wales schools had that computer skills test for grade 10 or year 10, which I guess you're familiar with this idea that every student at the end of grade 10 is going to be assessed for their technology skills, and that caused a huge a bit of a panic actually amongst schools, because suddenly they realised that the job of teaching technology was no longer just the problem for the IT people. It was actually everybody's issue now. The math teachers and the science teachers and the English teachers, and everyone actually had to take responsibility for making sure that the kids got to the end of grade 10 with the IT skills they needed.
Well, we've already got something like that in place in the ACT, and Mark actually manages that database, at the school. And part of what they did when those ICT competencies came in was to assign responsibility for achieving some of those competencies to the different subject areas, just to ensure that kids are getting that exposure. Yeah, exactly. And it's worked quite well. Like we've got almost 100% coverage, Mark, every year.
Yeah, it's about 98, 99% sort of thing. It's quite high. And the ones that you do miss out on are international students that go home early or come late and just don't get a chance to do all subjects to get across those competencies.
Yeah.
So it's mostly there.
Yep. No, well, that's good. Well, I'd like to hear from you guys in 6 months or so, and just let us know how it's all working out, because I'm sure there's lots of other schools that are at least thinking along the same lines, if not being put in a position where they have to do something about it like you guys have.
Yeah, and we'd be keen to hear any ideas anyone else out there has on how we might be able to get these things off the ground. Anyone who's done it previously and has had success or has found particular obstacles that we may need to plan for. I think it'd be great to hear, and I know it'd make Mark's job easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Well, once this podcast goes up, there's a comment section there, and it'd be nice if anyone who listens to this and has any thoughts or suggestions for you could maybe drop something in the comments, and I'll make sure they get forwarded onto you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Well, thanks very much for talking to me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Chris.
What's the weather like there in Canberra, just by the way?
Absolutely
33 and sunny.
I'm jealous. It's let me just check. It's 1 degree here in Toronto.
Nice.
It's a bit
tropical.
Yeah, tropical. Yeah, summer weather. Okay. See you guys. Catch you later.
Thanks, Chris.
See you, Chris.
Bye. I'd like to thank Bruce and Mark for their time and their thoughts for this episode. It's really good to see teachers so enthusiastic about the potential of so many technologies in the way their school works. And I actually look forward to hearing how they go as they venture down this track, and I'll try and catch up with them in 6 months' time and see how it's going. As always, the Virtual Staff Room website has a bunch of links to the stuff we talked about in this episode, including links to those essential learning achievements. And you can go to the blog and check it out at www.virtualstaffroom.net if you need more info. And if you have any suggestions or feedback about this episode, especially some ideas about what the guys might do at their school, please drop a line in the comments. I know Bruce would be really keen to hear your thoughts on any suggestions you've got. It's great to be back in Australia again after a year on a teaching exchange to Canada, and I must apologise for the delay between this episode and the last. My transition back into Australian life has been a little more disruptive than I initially expected, but I won't go into details on that. The whole teaching exchange thing, actually, I haven't really talked about it much, but it's a wonderful professional development activity, and if you ever get a chance, I'd really highly recommend it to anyone thinking about it. Experiencing how a different educational system operates, it just gives you a much better insight into your own system. And I have to say it certainly caused me to question some of the things we do and to maybe even rethink a few things about the way we teach and the way kids learn. If you do ever get a chance to teach overseas, do it. It's a wonderful experience. I have a few guests lined up for future episodes of Virtual Staff Room, and I'm looking forward to speaking to them. But as always, if you want to be a part of this Virtual Staff Room podcast, please just drop me a line, let me know. It's always great to hear about the wonderful stuff that goes on in classrooms out there, and it's even better to share it. So just visit www.virtualstaffroom.net for more info. You can find all the links you need there to contact us. Anyway, that's about it for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, my name is Chris Betcher, and you've been listening to the Virtual Staff Room.